All right, today we're tackling one of the most transformative and, let's be honest, polarizing figures in modern history, Donald J. Trump.
You know, this quote really nails the central paradox of Donald Trump, doesn't it? For tens of millions of people, he is the champion they've been waiting for their entire lives, a true fighter taking on a corrupt establishment. But for millions of others, he represents a fundamental danger to democracy itself. So how do we actually get past the noise, the rallies, the headlines? Well, we've got to break it all down. We're going to deconstruct the man, the global brand he spent decades building, and the presidency that completely rewrote the rulebook of politics. We'll look at the case for him, the case against him, and the communication revolution that powered the whole thing.
So to really get a grip on the political earthquake that was Trump, you've got to go back, way back. His rise was no accident. Nope. It was the climax of a 50-year mission to master the art of public image, first in the Shark Tank of New York real estate, and then, well, right in the living rooms of all of America. And this timeline, wow. It's like a masterclass in building a brand. It all kicks off in '71 when he takes the reins of his father's company. By 1983, with Trump Tower gleaming on Fifth Avenue, he's the absolute symbol of Manhattan ambition. But the real game changer? That was The Apprentice in 2004. For over a decade, he played America's boss on TV. That became the perfect launchpad for his political insurgency in 2016.
Now, what's so fascinating about that 2016 campaign is how it just tapped into this widespread public anger. He didn't come out with these complex 10-point policy papers. He ran on slogans: Make America Great Again, Drain the Swamp, Build the Wall. Every single one was simple, powerful, and he repeated them endlessly. These weren't just mottos. They were like cultural grenades that shattered the traditional political noise and spoke directly to this gut feeling that the system was broken and needed a wrecking ball.
Okay, so you've got this massive brand. How did that actually translate into governing the country? Well, for his supporters, the story of the Trump presidency is crystal clear. Promises made, promises kept. They see a leader who finally took on the establishment and put American interests first, no apologies. For a huge number of his supporters, this was it, the absolute cornerstone of his legacy. He appointed 3 conservative Supreme Court justices, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. This was so much more than just filling seats. For conservatives, this was the ultimate prize, the fulfillment of a decades-long mission to reshape the highest court in the land for a generation to come.
This right here, this really captures the heart of the pro-Trump argument. On the economy, you've got the huge 2017 tax cuts and those big renegotiated trade deals. You look at the courts, and it's not just the Supreme Court. It was over 200 federal judges, cementing a conservative legal philosophy for decades. And on the world stage, his administration oversaw the complete military defeat of the ISIS caliphate. To his base, this wasn't chaos. This was getting things done.
But for every one of those points, critics paint a completely different picture, and it is a starkly different one. They argue his presidency and his business career before it were defined by nonstop controversy, legal challenges like we've never seen, and a dangerous chipping away at democratic norms. Long before he even thought about politics, critics point to his business record. You know, he built this image of just flawless success, but his hotel and casino businesses filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy 6 times between 1991 and 2009. Now, it's important to note, these weren't him going personally bankrupt. They were corporate bankruptcies, a tool, really, to restructure huge amounts of debt. His supporters see it as savvy business. Critics say it completely contradicts the image of the perfect deal-maker he sold to the American people. And on the economy, man, the debate is just fierce. On one hand, supporters champion the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act as this huge engine for growth. But on the other hand, critics are quick to point to the other side of the balance sheet. By the end of his first term, the U.S. national debt had ballooned by $7.8 trillion. That's a nearly 40% jump. So you see the central conflict: tax relief versus a skyrocketing national debt. And then there are the legal battles. And honestly, the word unprecedented barely covers it. He is the only president in American history to be impeached twice. First time in 2019, and then again in 2021 for his role in the January 6th Capitol attack. And after he left office, the legal troubles just intensified, leading to 4 separate criminal indictments. Then, in May of 2024, he made history yet again, becoming the first former U.S. president ever to be convicted of a felony.
So you have to ask yourself, how is this even possible? How can one person be seen as a hero and a villain, often by people looking at the exact same set of facts? The answer?
it seems, lies in his totally revolutionary approach to communication and branding, an approach that just tore up the old political playbook.
You see, a lot of analysts argue that Trump pulled off something different. He didn't just run for office, he turned himself into a political brand. And in this new model, the product isn't a list of policies, it's the leader himself. Loyalty to Trump, the person, became this incredibly powerful emotional connection, often stronger than any traditional loyalty to the Republican Party or to conservative ideas. His supporters weren't just voting for a platform, they were signing up for a personality.
And the weapon of choice for this revolution? Social media, of course. Step 1. He completely bypassed the traditional media gatekeepers, the newspapers and TV networks, and spoke directly to millions of followers. Step 2. That unfiltered, often confrontational style created this powerful sense of authenticity. It felt real to people. And Step 3. He used that direct line to control the entire news cycle. He didn't just use social media to communicate, he essentially governed by it, waging his political battles minute by minute in real time.
Okay, let's zoom out. What does all of this actually mean? When you strip away all the praise and all the criticism, the Trump phenomenon, it turns out, is about way more than just one man. It holds up a giant mirror to the state of our politics, our media, and our society today.
Let's boil it all down to 3 huge takeaways from this whole era. First, leadership has become perception. Was the economy good or bad? Well, it depends entirely on which news channel you watch. Second, branding now beats policy, hands down. A simple, emotional slogan like "Make America Great Again" was infinitely more powerful than any detailed 100-page plan. And third, and this is maybe the most important, we live in an age of narrative warfare. The battle is no longer over facts, it's over which story feels more true. His rise didn't happen in a vacuum. It simply exposed these huge shifts in how we as a society decide what's real anymore.
And so, in the end, the story of Donald Trump isn't just about him. It forces us all to ask a really tough question. Was he a hero who broke a corrupt system, or a villain who broke democratic norms? Or was he something else entirely, a mirror, just reflecting the fractures, the fears, and the deep, deep divisions that were already there in America, forcing the country to finally look at itself? That is the question his legacy leaves us with.